Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Rich.
Hello.
Hello. Now, it seems like all the biggest corporations in the gaming world are going to war. It's a big old embarrassing, tragic thing, but we thought we'd break some of it down. So the timeline of this seemed to kick off yesterday when Apple kicked Fortnite off the App Store, off the iOS store, and that was apparently because Epic put in a direct payment method which gets around Apple's tax bracket thing of how much they want to take percentage-wise of every transaction that's made. Epic putting a direct payment model in means that anyone who's playing Fortnite can just pay Epic directly, which Apple really didn't like, and that breaches their terms of service. Apparently, Apple weren't told about it beforehand, so as soon as they found out, they booted Fortnite off the store. Now, that seems like it makes perfect sense, but yep. Epic, the whole thing, the way this is rolled out is Epic going down the whole, we're the underdogs, we're just fighting the corporate side of it. You know, they've put out this Fortnite 1984 style advert, which is a callback to Apple's own advert from 1984, where they were sort of going up against the, I guess, like the Windows monopoly in the PC space. Yes. Yeah. Big Brother style thing. And so Epic have kind of done this thing of like, you know, putting this advert out now. So if you boot up Fortnite, you get this advert, which is their Fortnite version of the 1984 advert, which just says, look, hashtag free Fortnite. We need to go and get Fortnite back on the Apple store. And it's also been kicked off the Google store as well. And so the crux of it at the minute is that Epic somehow think that they're the underdogs in this and not a $17 billion trading company. But how did this initially grab you?
I think the first thing that I think is hilarious about this whole ordeal is the fact that the majority of Fortnite's consumer base will not have a clue what the 1984 Apple advert is. And I think that's so funny. Wait to see kids see that original version of the advert from 1984 and go, wait, that's Fortnite. Oh, this copied Fortnite. In the same way they look at anything now that Fortnite have stolen and go, look, they copied it off Fortnite. Mm-hmm. This whole ordeal is, its initial, like, the initial idea behind it all, the idea of like, we need to make sure that the people who aren't actually the ones working on the games that we produce are taking the money that's rightfully ours. I mean, that's the whole reason why the Epic Games Store kicked off, and hence why Epic just had this huge like poop slinging contest with Valve. And they're, you know, as you say, they're like, we're the underdogs, we want all the money. And it's like, in a sense, regarding smaller studios, fair enough. That's something that really should be addressed. I think that across the board, it seems to be that 30% is a very given number across Xbox, PlayStation, Apple,
they all
Google, Steam. Like the heads of those distribution platforms will take that money, and that should really decrease, especially for indie games. Maybe they could have different like tiers of how much they take based on your
the $17
based on your like
tier.
position within the industry. If you're like a AAA studio, then yeah, 30%. If you're a AA studio, maybe 15%. If you're not, if you're indie, you're 10%. Admittedly, one thing that during all this whole thing with Steam that Epic did ignore was the fact that the more copies of the game that you sell on Steam, the smaller Valve's cut is. They never brought that up. They never ever brought that up in their whole big thing with Steam. So it's kind of like history repeating itself with Apple. And as you said, the fact that Epic are a $17 billion company, the fact that they are the ones kicking off at the fact that, they're taking all of our money, you know, we're losing out on all of this, and you know, this money should rightfully be ours. It is history repeating itself, and it's kind of hypocritical. The fact that they're like, they're taking our money, or they're taking our, like, I don't know, IPs and profiting off it. And it's like, well, what did you do with the Epic Store apart from buy out a bunch of studios so you could have their exclusivity and so you could make more money?
Which, like, that's the thing. There's a lot of nuance to this. Like, the whole idea of like the Epic Store versus Steam and that sort of, like, there is that whole discussion around how it forces competition into the PC space, or the way that they went around it is very just throw money at publishers and secure different deals. Like something like Control was all of a sudden locked to the Epic Store, and I think Borderlands 3 and stuff like that.
It was, what was it? It was Metro Exodus was the first big one that got people royally ticked off.
Stuff like that they went around, like I said, throwing their money around, locking some stuff down. Like, that's one part of why, like, the whole the money side of what Epic stand for, like, it doesn't really come through as this we're for the underdogs thing. It's very much just we're going to pay our way, we try and get as much money as possible. But I think in regards to this, like you said, the amount that they're sort of having to fork over is 30% of any microtransaction, any overall revenue, and that also applies to Sony and Microsoft as well. Nintendo don't disclose their percentages, the amount that they take per games that they host on the eShop. but Sony and Microsoft both take 30% of their revenue. With that in mind, like I looked at some of their statistics. Sony have made just in quarter one of 2020, 2.29 billion off microtransactions and other add-on content, which accounts for 41% of their overall revenue. So the way that it's going forward, I know, actually to throw on as well, Microsoft's quarterly earnings are up 39%, and they cited a certain third-party title as being instrumental in that, which assumedly is Fortnite 2. I know, and so like the thing with the Epic side of things is that going forward, if everything swings in Epic's favor, which I highly doubt, they would like assumedly negotiate these percentages down so that these companies would make less and all the money would go more directly to Epic. But at the same time, like that only gives them more of a monopoly on the user base, on the consumer base, and it means that they can change however they want to monetize their game. It's always a constant conversation as to how predatory a certain game can be versus the platform holder steps in and says, actually, we're not okay with that. And this sort of like mediate stuff. The last time it really spiked was 2017 with EA and obviously the loot box thing in Battlefront 2, and that's the whole thing. If you get away from any sort of platform, one step in that chain, and Epic can just directly monetize a consumer base 100%, then I don't have any faith that Epic would do that well. I think they would start making it predatory as hell.
I mean, they've said, if you buy the stuff directly through us on the App Store for V-Bucks and things, then you're getting them for 20% less. Yeah. And
only for now, though, I think. Only
for now, and they said it's a permanent discount. Obviously, the game's been taken down, so you can't even do that anymore. But it's like if the fact that if the numbers do change, if the percentages do change in favor of the developers, so they'll be getting more of the profit and the revenue that is, admittedly, it is rightfully theirs.
Yes.
That is a consequence of this whole ordeal. This isn't why they're doing it.
No.
They're citing that as the reason why, but in reality it's because they want to fatten their own money clips. I said to you before we started recording, if this were a bunch of indie developers, if this were, say, Devolver as a publisher, turning around and saying, right, we want to make our developers more money because we've got some incredible games under our hood. I mean, you've got Fall Guys right now that's absolutely making a killing being published by Devolver, and it's like these guys deserve all the money in the world. Not like they're already making a lot anyway, but like they deserve more. If it was something like Devolver or a bunch of indie studios all banding together to take down this higher percentage, then fair enough. But because it's Epic, it's cynicism left, right, and center from this end.
I think we sort of default to like the cynical side of it. I think because of just how much we've grown up with video games, but also like it does feel like, I mean, that whole thing, the potential defense of it is like, well, wouldn't you want developers to make as much money as possible off the products that they make?
I've tweeted about this, and that's what I've had people say to me, oh, do you not want developers to make more money? It's like, no, of course I want developers to make more money. I just don't want Epic to be the people to instigate that because they want more money themselves, not because they want to fight for a better a better world for developers to live in. It's like, again, with the whole Steam thing, they were like, we want this to be better for developers, and it's like, well, no, all you want is for that money that you're seeing that could be going to you want it to go to you, so therefore you're going to make it go to you. They say that Steam has been basically what's the word? It's completely left me. They've been There's no competition. I completely there's no competition in the PC space because Steam have the monopoly on it, and it's like, yeah, that is true. But the reason why is because Valve in 2003 went, you know what? We need to change this because PC gaming is getting a bit like archaic, and they changed the whole landscape of PC gaming, and nothing's come up to fight that because it just keeps working. Gary Newman, who you might know from Gary's Mod or Rust at the Facepunch Studios, he tweeted today saying that apparently if Valve took 10% rather than 30%, then Facepunch as a studio would have made like $50 million more over their games, because obviously Rust and Gary's Mod are huge on PC. Like, that is a lot of money. You know, an extra 50 mil is pretty nice. But he then follows up that saying, like, but the thing is, Steam have done so much for us. Hence why when we, like myself and Osley as like the resident PC gamers here, hence why we were so critical about Epic's Game Store, because it was like the amount that Steam offers for publishers and developers in terms of their service that they give. It's not just distributing a game. They get the review scores, they get the forums, they get the Steam Workshop, they get, the biggest PC install base out of everything. They get all of that alongside it. And as much as 30% isn't great, they could probably push that higher with the amount they offer, but they don't. Epic gave you a store that did the bare minimum, didn't even have a basket, and then happily put people's games on sale for them without basically consulting them. So it
feels a bit rushed.
yeah, there are two sides to this story, and just the fact that Epic are the ones kicking all this stuff off, it's just... I think it might be the fact that as somebody who is a PC gamer and still being a little bit salty about the Epic stuff, thankfully I've been able to move completely off Epic now that I've had satisfactory release on Steam. It's still like when they just poke their nose in again to make a problem that they want to fix for themselves and play it off as it being a bigger thing for the rest of the industry. It's irritating.
Yeah, I think it's just there's a big lack of it feeling genuine on their part, and like I want to believe that they want to help. I want to believe that they want to create a better space for overall developers and the revenues that they make and microtransaction amounts and things like that. But I just don't trust it coming from Epic. And it's funny that one of the only companies that have stepped in so far to support what Epic have done is Spotify, a company that pays a fraction of a percent towards artists. It's not like they believe in the betterment of art forms or mediums. It's very much just like, let's pay the creators as little as possible and get as much money as possible for the executives, which is what I think that this thing is on the Epic side too. As much as the defense could be, don't you want developers to have as much money as possible? Yes, ideally, but this money wouldn't go to the coders, the developers, the creatives. It would go to the people at the top. It'll still
go to the publishers / the people high up in the studio. So
it's
like,
just
not to say that
thing.
It's not worth trying to change it. Absolutely not. But yeah. The fact that it's, as I said, that it's being framed by Epic as we are trying to make this better for everyone, and it's like that's only a consequence of what would happen if it did go your way. But the only reason why you're pursuing this now is because you want more money. You see 30% and you say that should be mine. I want all of it.
So we'll see how it plays out. It has potential ramifications, like we mentioned before, about just how much Sony, Microsoft, the console makers are making off microtransaction amounts, and whether those things would change. Whether that means someone like EA, if they weren't having to fork out as much to those companies, if they were going to directly monetize a fan base, would that get worse or would it get better? I assume it would get worse, and so there's a potential ramification there. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you side with either side, or is the whole thing just as uselessly tragic as it feels right now? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Rich. Thank you for listening to me rant about Epic again.
I'll catch you next time. That's okay.
Bye.
Bye.